Does anyone else remember the saying, "Stop the insanity"? It was the catchphrase of a woman named Susan Powter, who was one of the OG fitness infomercial best-selling author, food guru. I mean, she was everywhere. And then she disappeared. I got to talk to her about her new documentary, Stop the Insanity, Finding Susan Powter. And wow, I learned a lot. Hi, Susan.
Hello, Melissa Rivers. How are you? It's lovely to meet you, by
It's
the way.
lovely to meet you. And I had no idea, and we're going to get to all this later, that my mom made such an impact on you when I watched the documentary. And we're going to get into that. But first, let's just go in order. Whose idea was the documentary?
Long story short, I have 3 children and a few friends, so not a lot of people have my number. Not because fancy schmancy, just because I haven't been whatever for a long time. And I got a text one day that said Susan Powter ? And I froze. It made me nervous because I was just like, did I just deliver to someone and they recognized me on the ring cam, whatever. And it turned out to be a very talented young filmmaker named Zeberiah Newman who said, I'm interested in doing a documentary. And I said, absolutely not. Like, I'm not in front of the camera. I've done absolutely nothing. No, we're not. But thank you. But the interesting thing is he looked for me for 1 year, solid, 1 year. 1 year. And he knew when I was that difficult to find that something was up. He was like, wait a minute, she's not like living on a farm somewhere, with the horses and like something. And when he heard the story, he did a gratitude list with Jamie Lee Curtis is one of the people on the gratitude list. And Jamie said, is she still her? Does she still have energy? Is she still like alive? And he was like, more than ever. And she said, you have to go back and film. And he called me and said, can I come back and film you tomorrow? And we started filming the movie right then.
What made you say yes?
Because when I met him, and because you've seen the movie, I don't have trouble trusting, but stuff went down that shocked the hell out of me when I found out, which you can understand in business and blah, blah, blah. I immediately trusted him. And single mom, young kid who knew when he was 14, he was watching me on the television, whatever, just raised properly. And I just trusted him. And Jamie Lee Curtis, how can you, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And I trusted him to weave a story that isn't just about she had millions and now she has nothing. That isn't the story. I wanted him to weave a woman's story. This is a woman's story, not just a mother, not just somebody who had millions, not just infomercial fitness queen. No, like this is a woman. And that's what I'm so proud of because the response has been amazing. Amazing.
Yes. One of the things that struck me is there seems to be 3 Susans that we meet through the documentary. And I've got questions for all of them.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the first...
I got you the answers, believe me.
I'm sure you do. The first is overweight Susan,
Yep.
whose husband leaves her and the kids. Then there's Susan number 2, which is the public Susan with the spiky blonde hair and Stop the Insanity and all the infomercials. And then there's the Susan we meet in the beginning of the movie, who's struggling to keep her head above water in Vegas. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to start with Susan number 1. We never find out why your marriage fell apart because, someone who walks out on a woman with 2 kids 11 months apart, what was the reason?
Well, America grew up with that story because Stop the Insanity was never about fitness. It was literally about the prince leaving, and that was written in the first book extensively, and I have since, I just wrote a book, a memoir, and I go into depth there about how I went from, single mother, incredibly overweight, to next step was stripper, next step was I opened a studio.
Right.
So I explain more of the backstory because America does not. They grew up with my first 2 kids. Everyone knew the prince left. Everyone knew the white picket fence blew up. And why did he leave? First of all, I haven't thought about him, and my oldest son is 43, so I don't care why he did anything. However, a lot of women face that, where all of a sudden he's not into marriage, and you got a 6-week-old and a 1-year-old. And what I knew at the time, which people don't realize, I knew I was screwed financially. I mean, I was a single mother living in Garland, Texas, 2 babies a year apart, incredibly over fat and unfit, didn't even recognize myself. Every
Right.
mother who's postpartum with 2, literally I knew I was screwed. And I was just like, what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to put my kids in daycare. This is 1982, Melissa. I mean,
Right.
you were young then. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You were young. So that reality was the base of Stop the Insanity, which is why it was so popular. I mean, fitness is simple. I can tell you how to change your body. That's easy. But I wove a story that American women were like, get it, get it.
100%. But, time, like, I know I'm in a part of my life because 2025 has fucking sucked so bad, where I'm very reflective on why things affect me.
Yeah.
Do you ever look back and say, I could have been a better wife. I could have been a better mother. I could have been a better partner.
Yeah, no, not for a minute. No, first of all, I don't even with the wife thing. I'm a lesbian. I'm not with the wife thing. I'm not doing a wife. Oh, I could be a lesbian wife, I guess. But anyway.
Now, it depends what state you're in.
Yeah, that's no joke. No, I don't know. I could have been. What didn't you do? Like, no. And we had an excellent home. I am a very, very good mother. And they were raised really well. And they're adult men that prove that now. They know how to respect women. They eat organically. They're decent human beings. And I only have one grandchild. And my son is an extraordinary parent. Extraordinary. Because they watched it. What people also don't know is, years later, when I left everything, I had another baby at 40. People don't know that baby. So yes, I have a 43, 42, and a 27-year-old who knows nothing about Stop the Insanity. Nothing.
Which is crazy. Which is crazy, as we'll talk about. So we meet, and then obviously a huge part of the movie is talking about Stop the Insanity. And my takeaway was you were very smart. You were an aerobics instructor. It's very funny that you talk about that you had too much information and too much energy. Yep. You found this abandoned studio. You got into business with the guy, and and it was basically right near Dallas.
Yes, it was.
And you became, as people were becoming, the fitness instructor, the aerobics teacher in Dallas.
The studio got very, very popular. Got local press, but remember in Dallas, that was the end of the 80s, that was early 90s. Big hair in Dallas, I had no hair. I had bracelets up to here. All my ears were pierced completely, tattooed. Like, I should not have been popular in Dallas, Texas, but it's real. That's what people responded to. So the front row became the hot front row in the aerobics industry when it was the hottest it was. Yes, it did.
So I'm going where I'm going with this is you then realize it's worth getting a publicist and taking it a step further. And what struck me is you are clearly very smart and very methodical. There is not a lot of impulsiveness. You not that you plot and plan, but you have a goal and you work methodically towards it.
I'm not an idiot. Like you're not an idiot. I'm not. We're smart. Like I thought about it because I had children to feed.
Exactly.
Literally.
So my biggest question coming out of that whole sort of part of the origin story is, you meet was it Jerry or Barry?
Jerry.
Jerry. You walk into a meeting. His brother had taken your class, and there he is, a businessman. 2 lawyers. You are a smart woman. He says, this is what we're going to do, and slides a piece of paper in front of you.
Which is not ignorance or stupidity, and I'll tell you why.
I was going to say, why the fuck did you sign it without having someone look at it?
Well, first of all, I was a single mother. I didn't have a dime. I was running a studio that is studios are not profitable, believe me. Second, it was a totally different vibe, totally different time. I walked in, I was like, sure, but I wasn't trying to be anything. We were gonna franchise the studio. It was not write best-selling books, do videos. That happened without anyone knowing it was gonna happen. And it was a shock. And they got the deal of a lifetime.
No kidding.
The deal of a lifetime.
But what struck me when you were telling the story was, I understand that you were a mom, that you only were making the money with this, and that's what you thought, but you're so smart that...
Yeah, I just say, it wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't that intentional. It wasn't the business mentality. I mean, everyone knows, it's not an excuse. It's the reality at the time.
Right.
I was in a huge thing. There was a lawyer there. He's like, we want to do 50-50. We care about you. We're going to do this. We're going to open a franchise like the Richard Simmons Anatomy Asylum kind of. And I was like, okay, that's great. Great. You know, I had a paycheck. He, expanded the studio. I never thought beyond that, Melissa,
No.
once.
No.
Ever once. Like, not once.
Of course
So,
not.
was it ignorance? Yeah. Was it youth? Yeah. Was it, but it has nothing to do with stupid. Like, it was just the way I just did it, signed it, whatever. I never believed people could be as horribly disgusting as they are. Never.
And that's the point I'm getting to.
Yeah. Never.
What, that, in the long run, had to have been a shock. And you talk about your inner circle being beyond deceptive.
Yeah.
That had to be such an emotional blow for you because
Well,
you're
Jerry, we ended up, whatever, because that was a whole thing. And the long story short of it is, I generated $276 million.
which, by the way, again, in 90's money.
Yeah. Well, I sold Bob Asahina, the original editor, who I love and I talk to still, and he loves me and we love each other. He said, Susan, do you realize that you sold 1 million copies of a hardcover book without ever writing a word on paper? I said, no, I didn't know that. I mean, I knew we sold a lot, but I didn't know I sold 1 million. What hurt was not Jerry, because there was a lawsuit and it was and when I told him, listen, I want to expand this, it's gone a lot further, we have books, videos, he put his finger in my face and said, I own you. If you teach piano lessons for the rest of your life, I get half. And I said, quote, I don't know if I can cuss here, but
Yes.
I said, get your finger out of my fucking face before I bite it off. And I got up and walked. I never spoke to him again. Big lawsuit. That wasn't the heartbreak, Melissa. That was not the heartbreak. The heartbreak was a woman I trusted greatly. It wasn't sexual, it wasn't a love affair, but it was bigger than a love affair. And it was us two women doing it. We were doing it together. And, Jerry would yell at her and she'd be like, screw it. It was us together. I believed that I am no fool. I believed it with every cell in my body. When I got that realization, that crucified me. It was so shocking that I literally did not speak her name for 7 years.
Oh, I understand. There's people whose name I do not.
Yeah, no, I didn't speak her name for 7 years, and the only reason I am now is because I just did a movie and whatever. So I tell the truth.
Right.
So I did not. I took my baby, I left Los Angeles and moved to Seattle and started teaching aerobics. I was just like, I'm done, which was stupid on my part. I'll tell you where I was stupid if you want to know.
Yeah, no, I do, because again, you see, and I saw it with my mom. These very smart women.
Yep.
Making decisions sometimes out of desperation.
100. Woman in business, not normal, not fitting the norms. Hello, Joan.
Right.
Hello,
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, and she had just lost my father, who had handled all that, and making decisions that you look back and go, how did I make that decision? And that's one of the things that struck me in this was, she's smart, she's energetic, she's pushing, she's tapped into something. She knows she's tapped into something. And that's why, again, it wasn't... Do you think there was a level of you that was naive?
No,
and I mean that in the best possible way.
No, it's not insulting to me at all. No, I'm not. It's interesting because I always say, if people, if I had dinner with you, people would be shocked at what I'm not. I don't believe in any of the therapies. I don't believe in the men. I don't believe in all the get back, look back, reflect. It's not who I am. I'm very bottom line. I'm very pragmatic. And I did not know. I did not make Stop the Insanity happen. I didn't know I was going to be writing books. I didn't say, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to be known as a fitness guru and I'm going to write books. When I tell you it fell in, and I was grateful. I mean, I got a $2 million advance without a word on paper at the elevator. I was given that offer. And I didn't even talk about wellness. I talked about the millinery business and high colonics. And then I said, oh, by the way, I want to write a book called Stop the Insanity. Bob Asahina, boom, deal with Simon & Schuster. I was just grateful. We were walking back from that, and Joan would understand this. We were walking back from that, and somebody said to me, do you know how to write a book? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I'll write it.
I'll figure it out.
It wasn't calculated. That's why I'm very grateful now that I thought my work was for naught. I thought it didn't mean anything. I thought all that work and all that love and all that travel and all the people and the women, I thought it meant nothing. And the love that I see, I said the other day, I was walking into a grocery store and I literally started to weep. And I said, Susan, all of that was out there. They respect your work. It touched people. It meant something. And I said, and you almost didn't survive to see it. I didn't know it was out there, Melissa.
Okay.
I didn't know. I didn't know.
This is one of my favorite questions to ask people. When was the first time you were recognized outside of Dallas? When was the
You mean
first
back
time?
in the beginning?
Yeah. When was the first time you were in an airport and someone said,
Pretty
aren't,
soon because we got
aren't
to the place.
you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got, and well, number one, people ask me all the time, was that deliberate, that hair? No. People used to throw stuff at me with, you don't have hair like this in Dallas, Texas in 1982.
No.
I didn't do it deliberately. It wasn't a marketing thing. It has nothing to do with it. But because of the hair, almost immediately. Like I did the home show and it was like, aren't you that woman? And my voice to this day, my voice, everybody's like, you sound like that woman on TV. Almost immediately just because of the hair. But it, again, was not planned. They just, can you write a book? Yes. Can you do a video? Yes. And I always just did the truth. And then it became a platinum and a bestseller. The other thing that I need to say to all the mothers, all the mothers, I was actually raising my children. The men that I was doing the $1 million deals with they were going home to their mistress. No. I was commuting every week. I was going to the goddamn baseball games. I was going to the stupid basketball games that I couldn't stand the noise of. I was raising my children. I was there for dinner. I was there for birthdays. You have to add that when you connect it to mothers and women. Because I was running like a racehorse, Melissa. I was like, oh, I'm so famous. I'm not that being. I haven't changed one iota. I'm not that being. So I was just running, going, doing, and then it became monstrously huge. And it was nice. It was nice. And I liked it. You know, you get good seats, you get upgrades, you get all that. But I didn't walk around like, oh, I am so everything.
No.
I didn't do that.
And you get that through the documentary. As a child, and I've watched it with myself, I mean, maybe less with myself because it was just kind of always there, but especially with my son, when it dawns on them that mommy, and in my son's case, grandma, do not have normal jobs.
Yeah. They're not normal people. I mean, thank God.
Yeah. But I'm saying, but they're always just like, were your sons young enough that it just kind of became like that's just how life is?
Well, you want to talk about the inside scoop. When Planet Hollywood opened, remember way back, you were very young, but way back.
Oh, I remember.
Your hit, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, and it was in Hollywood. So I was invited to the opening of Planet Hollywood. And I'm not even to this day, I'm not big on all that stuff. And that's great, I appreciate it, but no. And I took my son, who was 11 then, I mean, his heroes, Shaquille O'Neal, all of them. I didn't even know half the people. So I took my son. I got a phone call the next day from one of the financial people, a woman in the company. And she said, I just can't believe you didn't take me. And she was and I said, I took my kid to an opening of an event with the biggest act, like, that kind of stuff, kind of gross stuff was happening. And it would shock me, like, oh, gross. But, go ahead, do the financials, which, by the way, she didn't, but that's fine. It is different in the 90s. I couldn't say to Time Warner, I want to see the analytics. There was no chance in hell of that happening. No chance in hell. Like,
I always used to laugh because I would come from work to go to a school thing with my son, and I would be in what my mother used to refer to as full kabuki, because I've just come off set, full hair and makeup, and just run to school. And I always was like, my son would just look over and be like, he didn't think about it. He knew he came from work.
Especially your life and your son. I mean, infomercial queen, wrote books. I get it.
But when you had to go to baseball games and suddenly you're Susan Powter, and it's not necessarily the moms on your team because they know you, and all the other moms are like, I mean, did your sons ever feel that or get used to that?
Okay. They didn't even, because again, it's what you're like at home. I mean, we didn't live, listen, I mean, Joan, palatial, legend, and being her daughter is very different than being my son's. It's very different.
But still, it was a big lifestyle change for them.
Yes, it was fun, and I'm really relaxed, so that's okay. But I could tell you a really negative thing. I was in Dallas. Both sons are all-star. They're really good athletes. And I was in the stands, literally in the stands. This is the truth. It's another, I can cuss, right, Melissa? It's okay.
What? By the way, you can fucking say whatever the fuck you want.
Well, good. Literally, when I tell you, the coach, this is exactly what happened. They were like 8 and 9-year-olds. The coach, as they were running out, called them cunts. called them cunts. And I stood up in the stands and I said, is that okay with all of you? And a man in the stands, a white man, said to me, don't you get enough attention, lady? And I said, if that's not, and I took my kids off the field and we left. It was like, don't you get enough attention? So it wasn't always positive, Melissa Rivers. I can tell you that right now. Not at all.
It's funny for my son. I mean, I have a different story, but we were at my son played college lacrosse and we're at the big finals tournament and they're playing in the consolation bracket. And I'm watching all these parents kind of doing this and looking over and looking over and looking over. And they were, I think it was Georgia or Florida, and they were lovely and both teams were out of the tournament. And the boys were just having fun. None of the starters played.
Yeah.
Then they started mixing up the teams, and it was lovely.
Right.
And I went over to find the mom who my son switched jerseys with, who was the other captain. Because I'm like, let's get a picture. This will be cute.
Yeah.
And it clicked in. And all of a sudden, all these moms from the other team were like, woof, but in a lovely way.
Very nice, yeah.
And I look at Cooper and he's just like, all right. And they're forcing their sons to take pictures with me. They have no idea who this woman is.
No, I mean, I think it can be awkward. And you're at a different place because it's just a different level in every way. And you've done a ton of TV and your mom and the whole thing. I'm just a simple gal with simple. I mean, we're the same thing. I've always been this way. So our house wasn't pretentious. We're not a pretentious family. I require discipline, respect in a big way. I'm like the dominatrix of discipline. I don't mess around. Like, I don't care what kid you are. You better say, yes, please, thank you. That's done. So we had a good gig. And it was me and the boys, me and the boys, me and the boys. That's what it was. Single mom by choice. At that point, I never wanted another baby daddy. So I was done. So they loved it and we had fun. And more importantly, I was proud that I could pay for my children. And I, with what education, whatever, like she talks for a living, what the hell. And I was proud of my work. I'm still proud of my work. Like every book that came out, I was damn proud of it. So it was exciting and fun. And we had perks. When we went on vacation, we went together in the Bahamas and we spent a week. We had the time of our lives. We watched sea turtles lay eggs in the middle of the night. We didn't go on a tour and a yacht and a boat. Like we just were our family. And that's a big part of what changed a lot. Fast forward, we will, but that dynamic shifted later on, and that was the most painful thing for me. The most painful thing, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
You think you were the manners dominatrix? You never met my mother or me.
She's right, by the way.
Oh, 100%. There was no
sticker that just says Joan's right. That's it. About everything.
Yeah. There was no.
Yep.
There was no entitlement.
Yeah.
Again, I got to roll back because people now don't understand the power of the infomercial. Mm-hmm. And you did yours, and it blew up.
Yeah, it did.
When did it dawn on you that your message was getting through?
Well, you'll totally get this. You'll totally get it. When I did infomercials, it was the lowest rent thing you could do. They were lighting cars on fire to show the strength of the car wax. That is not a joke, Melissa Rivers. It was it was just like gross. My infomercial, the original one, they didn't ask me nobody thought it was going to be successful. It was a 5-camera shoot, 3,500 free tickets, and nobody even asked me, what are you going to wear? There was no rehearsal. I came the minute I got on that stage. The suits were sweating because I was talking about my ex-husband planning his murder. It's a great infomercial. I was talking about the Bambi story when I went to take an aerobics class. I was flapping a piece of bologna and saying, this is a pig's ass. This is not. They were just like, we're dead. We just lost $100,000. Like, we're dead in the water. They were sweating. They did not know it was going to be a hit. When I knew it was a hit, I didn't watch it when it came out, but the phone did not stop ringing. It came out December 26th, which is when they standard weight loss crap they bring out. It blew up. But here's when I knew. When Kirstie Alley satired me on Saturday Night Live. You have to see it. It is and that was really early on. They weren't, for SNL to satire you better than anyone, and they don't do infomercial queen. So something shifted. but I never paid attention to that. I always say, I don't know, Sally Fields in the movie where she brings literally the mills to a grinding stop. That's what Stop the Insanity did. When I did the home show. You've done TV your whole life. I broke every rule in television. I completely ignored Gary Collins and Sarah Purcell. I looked straight through the camera at 8 a.m. and I went like this. No, listen, you can modify. I don't care what fitness level you are. Anybody can modify. That means you can get well, you can burn fat. I talked nonstop for 3 minutes. That's how fast it is on TV. And I knew I would never be invited back. Well, it broke ratings records. So they called up and they said, we'd like to have her back. You know when they put me on? 2 days before Thanksgiving, or the week before Thanksgiving, when nobody gives a shit about fitness. So they were like, this is gonna bomb. Broke the records. I always see Stop the Insanity for what it was. It literally was, we didn't have the internet. I couldn't go direct. You can't see me on Insta and TikTok. You wanna know me? I'm right there, come. I did it this morning at 3 o'clock. Here, we didn't have that. I knew the women inside that camera understood every word I was saying. And they understood that humor can be connected to wellness. And they understood that you could be over fat and unfit, and it could be like, hey, if I put it on, I can burn it. Like, like what? It's not such a big deal. And I never made it complicated because wellness isn't. And I never required a degree or anything else. I was like, I'm 68 in 2 weeks. I am as fit, it works. You can be lean, strong, and healthy. It's not that complicated. Let's get it done. I understand, whatever. That was the power, the simplicity, and the women. It was, I always say WAGs, women and gays. It was women and gays that made Stop the Insanity everything. 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 It's true.
How did the actual Stop the Insanity become
my words?
Did it just pop out of your mouth one day?
No, it was about the diet industry, the AMA, who I can't stand, the pharmaceutical industry that I can't stand, the agribusiness that I can't stand. I knew about all that in the 80s and 90s. It was considered radical. Now it's not. It was way ahead of its time. Way ahead of its time. No, here was the original saying, which I'm using now, the full saying. Stop the insanity, comma, what insanity would you like to talk about? That was the whole thing. But they wouldn't let me go there. It was only wellness, well, you're a fitness guru, and it was much more than that. Not the point. The insanity of looking at one fact alone. When I heard the facts, I've got a good brain. My brain processes the simplest common denominator and then goes, oh, that's what they mean. When I heard 98% of all diets fail, that was in 1983, 98% of all diets fail. The first thing that went, that's the insanity. The first thing that went through my mind is I'd like to meet the 2% that don't, first, 2%. And that's not our problem, that's the industry. But what's the insanity? I blame myself. I didn't stick to resolution, I didn't stick, oh my God, I didn't stick, I have no discipline, I have no willpower. It's a load of crap. So that was the insanity, because I was talking about changing your body. The insanity is blaming yourself when these idiots are pushing, and now it's even worse than ever. But fine. So it was a simple, like, something insanity. It's so crazy. But I got to tell you, I did a deal with Simon & Schuster. It was a very big deal. And they said, you can't use that title. They said in the beginning. It took about 5 seconds. They said, people are going to think you're calling them insane. And I said, people aren't that stupid. They are not going to think that. And then the lawyers maybe, I think we took it out, or maybe still be in the book. But I said, without oxygen, you die. It's the only thing you can't live without for more than 5 minutes. The only thing on earth, more than 5 minutes. And I said, hold your breath for 4 minutes and see how it's going. It's not going to go well. She said, oh, we can't do that because people will hold their breath. And I said, anybody that dumb needs to. Like, honestly. If you're that dumb, you need to hold your breath for 5 minutes. Like, okay. And I was like, people aren't that dumb. They always told me, the women won't understand. You talk too much information. When I did the fat formula, women don't do math. I was told that to my face. Women don't do math. And I was like, what a stupid damn thing to say. I, up against 5 major industries, as me, haven't changed one iota, in 1992. I mean, I fought hard, Melissa. I wasn't a doormat ever. But Jesus, I was up against, and it just wasn't worth it.
What gave you the strength to fight? What gave you the the backbone to not back down, especially because these are major companies that are saying to you, you can't. Mm-hmm. And all of us fall into maybe they're right. Let me rethink this. What was this? Were you born with this inner strength to just fight and believe?
I don't call it inner strength. I call it rage. I was born mad, meaning I was born, I would walk, I'm like, that's full of crap. I'm smart. We're smart. And I'm not rude. I'm not a rude person at all. But I have no problem letting you know, I have no problem with confrontation. I have no problem, whatever. I was always that way, but this is why this movie is a miracle. Because Jamie Lee Curtis, the moment I met her, and believe me, it's been a tough couple of years. Jamie Lee Curtis, the first thing she said to me was, this energy is not easy. This energy does not always work. It doesn't work well in a PTA meeting, Melissa. You're a mother. It doesn't work well in a bank line. And not that I'm rude, I'm not. But I walk in and my energy is just like, which is a good thing if you're on a stage. It's a really good thing if you speak for a living. It's a really good thing if I get the privilege of interviewing with you. It's not easy. It's not easy for my sons. I mean, I have one son that, stands this tall right next to me. Like, yeah, I'll tell you what Kyle did. Long story. And people used to throw stuff at me. I had short hair. I wasn't famous. Nothing. My kids were in Montessori school. And I paid a lot of money to do that. I was a single mom. And I went to pick my 5-year-old up one day, and all the kids were laughing. The teacher had no control of her class. And they were all laughing. Your mother's bald. Your mother's bald. And my 5-year-old Kyle stood up and said, my mother's so beautiful, she doesn't need hair. Come on, Mom, let's go. And I walked out of there like this. I was like, that's my kid. That's my kid. That's my kid. So yes, I was, and it was difficult. Me and my mom, like, she was the polar opposite, and my energy offends. But to know that as a crone, as a 68-year-old woman, I mean, Joan, nobody understands this more than Joan Rivers. And to have survived iterations of highs and lows and careers and the industries and, work in the back rooms at Vegas when you got to do it and Johnny Carson's a jerk. I know. It's so good to come into your own. It's so good to know, shit, this energy is precious. And I'm very respectful. My voice, I know, is strong, and but my kids they've never tell me what to do, but they've said, like, Mom, your voice kind of carries. You just said she's disgusting. Come on. You were raised by someone with an opinion, a brilliant opinion, a hysterical one. It's not always easy as the child.
No.
It's not always easy.
So you're riding high. Everything is good. When did you start to realize something was amiss?
And again, I take full responsibility. Everybody will see when they see the movie. I don't blame anyone. I mean, I know I should have checked the balances. I know I know what I should have done. And I didn't protect, not just me. I was angry at myself for that. But I didn't protect my children either. They didn't get their money either. So and you come around and it's, bitch better have my money because I'm ready now. So we'll do. That's fine. I knew that, you'll get it. The energy that got us there became when the deals got huge. I mean, Stop the Insanity generated $276 million in the first year. I was the only revenue generator, and I was teaching aerobics, so figure it out. You know what I'm saying? It va-voomed. It was huge. When I heard, it was like 2 years before I left, I heard things like, well, what Susan means is, or wait, just there, just wait a second. I got the shh. And there was a moment we were filming, I think it was Lynn Shear, 60 Minutes or so. It was a big, I don't know what it was, 2020, whatever. And it was a big shoot. And we were in the kitchen and all the execs were there. And some white guy said, the water is, being polluted. No, he said, well, all the water is polluted. And I said, wait a minute, it's not passive, kid. Like I stopped, I said, corporate America corporate world has polluted all the water on earth. Like, it's not being passively polluted and we don't know why. And I felt managers and agents stiffen. Like, they're the ones paying the bills and she's having an environmental conversation with them. So when I became too much, and I realized very quickly they were producing me out of me. It was like, what Suze means is, and I was like, no, what Suze means is what she just said. When it started generating gazillions, everyone liked it a lot more than I did. They got very greedy and they started lying and stealing. That's what happened.
Unfortunately, that's not an uncommon story. The documentary begins with us in a very raw way seeing what your life has been like. And it's really upsetting and it's really frightening. And the video you share about living in the motel, like, It's scary,
Yep.
scary shit. And you are a woman alone
Yep.
living there. Now, granted, I am pretty sure you could beat the shit out of anyone.
Mm-hmm.
There had to be nights that you were terrified.
It was scared is one thing. Horrified, shocked, embarrassed, and ashamed is another. Like horrified, shocked, embarrassed, daily. This is 10 years. It's not. We're not talking 2 weeks. Like that's not what we're talking about. That's why I'm so proud. And I will say this about Joan. If your mom, Joan Rivers, had the privilege that I have, because there were moments that were probably really dark and really scary. I don't care if you're in a welfare motel or not. Just career, family, stuff, dead, husband, the whole thing. I'm proud that a woman with a very talented young storyteller, because there's a lot of ways you could have woven the story. It could have been salacious. It could have been a load of crap. It could have been behind the scenes doc. It's not. It's beautifully done because the storyteller, director Zeberiah Newman, is brilliant. So is the editor. So the people that worked on this are brilliant, and I'm grateful. They're young and smart and brilliant. The bottom line is I'm proud of a woman's story. It's not a mother's story. That's why we don't, my mother is this much. It's not my whole being. Woman is this much. And I'm proud of my, survival instincts. And that same energy that you mentioned before is the energy that nobody ever, they watch me come and go at 4 a.m. It was beyond scary. You see, people know when they see the movie. It was real and really frightening, but I was never afraid. I mean, I was horrified and shocked and embarrassed and shamed and like, oh, this is so gross. But you don't even think about it because I will take you. If I win or not is not the point. You're going to come down with me if you even think. That aggression and that energy works very well when you're a 65-year-old woman walking up and down the stairs 100 times a day, and just people are just sitting watching your schedule, and they got nothing to do, and I'm alone. That's why the name of my book is And Then M Died. I wrote it to my dead dog. Because after she died, it just, not because she died, but that's when it just got like, a welfare hotel? Are you kidding? Like, are you kidding? It was shocking. It was shocking. Shocking.
And at that time, like you mentioned, you had a baby at 40. So suddenly you also had, would she have been in her late teens when?
It's 3 boys, and my youngest son is 27, and he was already on his own. He was 17, he had an apartment. He's got much older brothers. He was living.
Well, I'm talking about your daughter that none of us knew you had until you brought it up.
I have a daughter. My 3rd child is a boy.
Boy, 3 boys. Jesus, that's the good news is you don't have to pay for any weddings.
No, no. I would, as a matter of fact, I would heavily discourage a wedding. I'd be like, you can get a life and a career, like.
But you know what I'm saying? Like that's the beauty of all boys.
Yeah, and I think if I had a daughter, I think it would be pretty tough. I mean, listen, boys are basic and whatever, and it's the boys and me, and I still say to this day, boys, and I hear yes, ma'am, like they're this big, and they're like yes, ma'am. So but no. The youngest one, what's really interesting is, and I say this because it was one of the most painful things, it's in the movie, he didn't know the strong woman who paid for everything and had houses and had a career and all that stuff, a house, not for long, but anyway, he knew a woman who was getting sadder and sadder by the year, and he did his best. He's a very talented, lovely young boy, but it's hard when your mom's really sad. It's hard when your mom feels hopeless. That's not easy for a 22-year-old especially. Different emotions in different children. I got 3 children, 3 boys. The older one is pragmatic and he'll do it. Mom will fix the car and we'll do, but never approaches emotion. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, here I am. The second one is like, Mom, anything you want to talk about? It's emotionally very connected. And my youngest one is an artist and he's just like, Mom, I didn't know. And he, just recently, he was like, Mom, all my friends are calling me. This is you? What is it? He didn't know about Stop the Insanity. We didn't talk about it. But he saw a woman not the way I wanted him to see his mother. I mean, I'm not going to give away the movie, but there's a scene when he bought me sheets and a bed, and it was.
It's wrenching.
Thank you, because it made me feel, and he was so excited and trying, and you're a mother. I was like, I couldn't wait for him to get out of there because I just wanted to sob. I was so embarrassed. I hadn't seen his apartment. I've never bought him anything. He's on his own. They're financially on their own, which, by the way, worked out. All 3 of them were very, I didn't do anything because I didn't have the money. They did their own. They're successful, smart, lovely people. But that dynamic was really tough That when I was like, he doesn't even know a strong mother. He doesn't, like, he sees me sad all the time, and and I don't suffer from depression, and I don't have anxiety, anything, and there's no low to this high. I wake up like this, I go to bed like this, and I'm not medicated at all except weed. I smoke a lot of weed, but I'm not medicated on any pills or anything. This is not easy energy when it's really sad, because I have said, if I decide I don't want to be here anymore, in all due respect, I know that we have to qualify, but I wouldn't do it. I would call my kids and say I'm done, and they would not question me. They would say okay, because I'm not going to be like. But he saw a weaker woman, and that was hard for me. Hard for me.
Do you think the documentary is enlightening for him in the sense that he actually now, in a condensed period of time, sees, even in the darkest of times, which we see, is you never give up. You never.
I would say thank you, because I never did, Melissa. Well, I came close, but I never. You know what I did? I did give up. But I never stopped working. I did give up. I did say, I can't get out of this. There's no way. Like, I'm not going to live like this. Something's going to happen. I'm going to have a heart attack. I got no goddamn insurance. I did give up, but I never stopped working. Never. And that's where your mother comes in, because I had a meeting with her for hours and hours. I'll tell you all about it. But the point is this. I'm not kidding when I say this. I'm not sucking up to you because you're Melissa Rivers. I cannot tell you how many times I would say WWJD, which people think is Jesus. It's what would Joan do? And I say all the time, she would show up. She'd put her makeup on, and she would take the gig. And I did it because, Joan, all the time. I know she's your mom. I'm not going to step on that. But I have an umbilical thank you link to her. Because what would Joan do? WWJD, she'd show the hell up. And I never stopped working. And I never will, ever. You know, do you not know what I'm saying? You're the daughter. Like, yes, you know, right?
How did you guys meet?
We were at QVC backstage. I can't even tell you. First of all, I've always loved Joan Rivers. Always. I knew her. I'm 68 years old. I knew her way back when she was doing The Doctor Came Out and Slapped Me and slapped my mother when I was born. I know it. I know. Because who doesn't? She's a goddamn legend. Not the point. She was had gone through the Sony thing. Your dad had died. She had a difficult time with you for a very short time, for like a year or whatever, that broke her heart and her face, and I'm sure you know that. And I couldn't even understand that then, because it was me and the boys. I was going through the lawsuit with Jerry Gross Frankel, and a big, huge, massive lawsuit.
Huge.
And I was selling, huge, it was huge. I mean, I had 15 lawyers on me. And you know, I did. I knit when I was doing the deposition. I knit because I knit. And I would knit, and I look in the camera, and I said to them, if you think putting a camera on me is going to intimidate me, then you're dumber than I thought. Like, that's so dumb. I was like showing for the camera. But we sat for a long time because she said, it's hard, kid. They'll come after you. They'll take your money. It was just me and her. And she was like, you keep going. You're good, kid. Like, you're good. You keep going. And it's tough. And she told me that she'd had, after, her husband died, your dad died. And she said it was really difficult because it was, for a moment, the person that means the most to me, we had difficult times. And she told me the stress and the fear and just get back up and do it. And I will never forget it as long as I live. And my kids know. I went to see your mom's documentary alone in a theater on Wilshire Boulevard when it first came out. And that scene where she opens that, I was not broke then. I was still at the height of Stop the Insanity, Melissa Rivers. And that scene where she opened the calendar and she said, you want to know what fear is? You want to know what fear is? There's nothing on the calendar. That's fear. Years later, you could take me 20 years later, every single day, I would get up, do Uber still. I just drove Uber 3 days ago. Uber. And I would say, what would Joan do? She'd show up. What would Joan do? She'd show up. And I was like, I got a job. There's nothing on the calendar at all. But it is real to me. And I know you share your mother with millions of people in a huge way. I know that must be difficult and interesting, but she did have that effect. And so my WWJD, I'm not talking about Jesus, I'm talking about Joan.
Well, after she died, I wanted to make bracelets that said that, but we decided it was better to go with WWJS for what would Joan say. But that was just because, I
jump on the Jesus thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But by the way, all the time, what would Joan do? And for me also, it's what would my father do?
Yes.
And, after my father killed himself and my mom and I were at loggerheads and had to come back. And just, I've had, it's insignificant, but a difficult year. And it's fascinating because what I really related to was the moving forward. There's only forward momentum.
Yep. But people say that. They talk that, but to really do that, I mean, that's why the women, not just Joan, I mean, I saw it in Jane Mansfield, what those women had to do to have the waist and the this and the hair and the that and entertain the troops and go and do and get up against the worst patriarchal everything. That's why I respect them. The old school workers. I mean, not a lot of women were comedians. Not a lot at all. Not a lot of women were not a lot of women were toured. Not a lot of women had that life. They're such pioneers. And I was not one of those. I was an infomercial queen that knew how to write a book and do videos, and I love my work, and that's fine. Not the same league. So I just think it's important that we recognize what they had to do, because I wouldn't have the strength. I think of Judy Garland all the time. I'm like, how did you get up after all those pills and all that liquor? You get up and you dance for 8 hours with whoever the hell she was dancing with. Like, that was some real stuff. And I can some days barely get out of bed. And I always think of those women. I just honor them because they literally paved the damn path.
What is life like right now? You just said you're still driving Uber, but we see that you get your name back. We see that you are starting to get these things. Where are you now?
Well, it's a simple concept. Absolutely nothing has changed. In my envelope, which people will know, I have $1,400, so that's all I have to my name. It's great. I drive Uber every day that I'm not doing this, which I'm so privileged. Absolutely nothing has changed, but absolutely everything has. And it is the real cellular definition of hope. I have real hope that I can work again, really work, and that I can save some money and get my money back, and that I can get insurance and go to the dentist, go to a doctor. I mean, this is all real. It's all real. America knows, millions of people. I have such hope, and my children will tell you, like, nothing has changed. My mother is completely different. She has life back in her. Like, her energy is here. Her beliefs are here. She's planning. She's doing. That is life altering and saving to me. It just is. And it's not just fake hope. And I can tell you something, Melissa Rivers, it'll be done right this time. I promise you. I'll be checking the balance every 35 seconds. I will be questioning every question of whatever. I will not do a thing I don't want to do in my life again that I think is compromised or not who I am or produced out of me. And again, I'll say it, Joan knows. I mean, 1, 2, 3 iterations, had to come around 5, 6, 7 times. The privilege of that is you work the back rooms in Vegas and you show up for the job and you're grateful when it works. And when it does, you're happy because you're rich again. It's fine. The truth. It's the truth. Absolutely nothing has changed, but everything has in my being. And most importantly, I know my work meant something. I thought it meant nothing. I've never seen a penny from any royalty. I wrote 7 books. Never. That was all part of the mess. I know my work meant something because the love I'm getting. People are like, love you, love you, love you. Oh my God, you were always so rich. I love you. That is like balm. It's like ointment. It's healing. Healing is not chatter and I'm not that person. It's tangible. And so I have a chance. I couldn't be more grateful. Like on a daily basis, cellular.
Susan, you are amazing. I could talk to you forever. I still have so many things I didn't get to. Stop the Insanity, Finding Susan Powter begins streaming December 9th on all major video on-demand platforms such as Apple TV and Prime Video.
Thank you.
You are amazing.
Thank you. And I hope to meet you soon in person. And thank you for everything you do, and thank you for everything your mother did, and thank you.
Thank you.